Brooklyn Bloodlines, Season 2, Episode 1, Graves and Games. The night air after Trock's funeral was heavy, like the whole city was holding its breath. Hours since the rain, and Brooklyn still smelled like wet pavement and funeral flowers. Streetlights threw long, tired halos over puddles. The wind worried at bouquets tied to a stop sign, petals clinging to plastic ribbon like stubborn prayers. Nick Palermo leaned against the wall of the hotel bar, cigarette glowing, tie loosened, jaw set. He wasn't looking for trouble. He was expecting it. There's a difference. The night had that taste, copper and old church wood, the kind where somebody always makes a choice they can't walk back. Trouble walked in on black heels and a Georgia drawl. Harlow Blonde floated through the lobby like she owned the lease. Blonde hair pinned up loose, the kind of smile that sits right at the edge of confession. Bambi's friend. Been around the table long enough to know which chairs creak. She clocked Nick near the bar mirror. He didn't hide. Palermos don't hide. "Rough night, sugar?" she asked, sliding onto the stool beside him. Her perfume was honey and smoke. He snorted. "You tell me," she tilted her head. "Depends what you're drinking." "Something forgetful." Harlow clicked a fingernail against his glass. "They don't serve that here." One drink turned into two, turned into her laugh rolling easy, turned into his hand on hers, turned into a slow elevator where neither of them looked at the numbers. He clocked little tells as they walked, her eyes flicking to the concierge desk. A text she cleared off the screen too fast, a card key she already had before she met him. Nick didn't ignore any of it. He stored it like bolts in a velvet pouch. Upstairs, the door slammed. What happened in that room was fast and dangerous. All heat, no future. When it cooled, the air went thin. Harlow turned toward the window, the city dripping gold down the glass. Nick sat up, bare chest, pulse still loud, and saw it. A manila folder sitting on the bureau that hadn't been there before. He knew the weight of those things before he knew the words inside them. Shipping manifests, container numbers, wire routes, maps with grease pencil circles, offshore accounts. A handful of initials he'd seen in rooms where nobody took notes, initials that bled towards Intelli. Harlow stirred, voice low. "What are you doing with that, sugar?" Nick didn't answer. He looked at her, really looked, and something hard clicked shut behind his eyes. Thought of Bambi, thought of Goku, thought of a last name that meant you didn't flinch. Her smile faltered. "Nick?" His hands were around her throat before the next word finished. No roaring, no dramatics. Just breath turning to gravel, her nails skittering his wrists, the bed frame thudding once against the wall like some drunk down the hall knocked back into his chair. When it was quiet again, the only sound left was the radiator ticking like a metronome from an old lesson he'd stopped taking. Nick sat on the edge of the bed, knuckles raw, breath saw-toothing. He wiped his palms on the sheets, got up, slid the folder into his jacket. He checked the room like a pro, wipes, handles, drawer edges, elevator cameras he'd already considered on the way up. On his way out, he took one last look, and if something in his face cracked, it was deep enough not to leak. They drove east without music. The caddy ate highway. Pines turned to black teeth against a slate sky. The pine barrens don't got a scent so much as an idea of one. Damp pitch, the ghost of burn, the kind of soil that remembers what you put in it. Goku D'Angelo rode shotgun, collar open, coat dry despite the fog. He smoked with the window cracked. The cherry fire painted his cheekbones like war paint. Lopez sat in the back, quiet, eyes on the side mirror, scanning the dark for headlights that didn't belong. He watched Nick's hands on the wheel, steady. He watched the speedometer, not too cautious, not too bold. A man driving like he owed the road a favor. They found a spot where the ruts in the dirt track ended. The engine ticked to silence. Flashlights cracked open the dark. The trunk lifted with a sigh and gave up its secret. The shovels bit. Soil clung thick, sweet, and reluctant. Breath steamed. Sweat ran cold between shoulder blades. Nobody asked for absolution. Nobody offered it. When the last shovel of dirt landed, Goku stood an extra beat, eyes on the mound like it could answer a question he wasn't gonna ask twice. He flicked his cigarette, the ember skittering across damp earth and winking out. "Dust to dust," he said, a priest without a parish. Lopez slammed the trunk. "I'll handle the cleanup back in the city," he said, voice clipped. "You two lay low." Goku nodded once. Nick nodded once. Sometimes that's all a family needs. They rode back with the windows rolled to ghosts. Brooklyn didn't sleep. It turned over and watched the ceiling. Lopez cut south instead of north and pulled up at Club Marquis, where the night's heartbeat lived under LED ribs. Inside, air like electricity. The bass stuttered through your pockets, shook your lighter, asked if you were ready to be honest. On stage, KFM, Brady Keller, had the mic like a confession and a grin like he already got away with it. "Loyalty's cheap till you counting receipts," he spit, each bar sticking to sweat. "Snakes ain't hiss when the speaker's this loud. They smile." The crowd raised phones and drinks. Lights strobed the room into flickbook saints. Back in VIP, Anthony Rizzo worked the floor like he owned the fire code. Hands in suits' shoulders, whispers that smelled like Hennessy and future favors. He saw Lopez, and Lopez saw him. Two nods, one for the past, one for the line neither of them would cross unless the other asked polite. Lopez angled to a corner booth. Rizzo slid in with a glass that was already sweating. "You look like a man who visited Jersey soil," Rizzo said, eyes amused because his voice wasn't. "Brooklyn business," Lopez answered. "Jersey dirt." Rizzo shrugged. "Dirt don't care who drops it." On stage, KFM hit a verse that thinned the room's grin. "If the devil wears silk, then the angel lies. Keep the blade by the Bible. Read between the lines." A couple heads turned toward Rizzo out of reflex, old habits. Rizzo patted the air, "Relax," and lifted the glass. "You keep the kid clean," Lopez said, tracking the stage. "He keeps himself clean," Rizzo said. "I just make sure the floor ain't wet when he walks." "And the snakes?" Rizzo's smile went paper thin. "You don't mow grass at night, brother. You set a perimeter and you wait." Lopez looked him in the eye that way feds learn from Marines. "We're gonna need shows downtown, quiet corners, no press. If I call, you say yes." Rizzo didn't blink. "You call, I say yes." They clinked. Lopez left before the bass could call him back. On stage, KFM bowed his head to the beat like he was praying for someone who hadn't asked. Dawn unspooled along the lie like yellow caution tape. Out on Long Island, Mikey the Hammer Palermo had the hood of a '67 Impala up and a wrench in his fist, oil black in the grooves of his fingerprints. The garage smelled like motor breath and old secrets with a good sense of humor. Lopez walked in with the morning in his hair. Mikey didn't look up. "You woke a sleeping dog," he said into the carburetor. "You ain't never slept," Lopez said. "That why you're here, to flatter me?" Lopez planted both palms on the fender. "Things are crooked. Nick's playing personal. Bambi's caught in a undertow named Christian's Intelli. Goku's holding twine in a windstorm." Mikey straightened only enough to take Lopez's measure. "You telling me the family's in trouble, and you drove to my door instead of picking up a phone?" "I'm telling you the family's in trouble," Lopez said, leaning in, "and I want you to see my face when I say it." They stood there, the distances measuring themselves. Mikey tossed the rag onto the bench. Tell Nikki I'll think about it, but if I come back, I ain't playing nice. Later that night, Zintelli, different back room, smokier, meaner. Christian Zintelli sat easy with a cigarette twirling between two fingers like a slow metronome. The ashtray already had the outline of a bad habit. A young bookie sat across, sweat spider-walking under his collar. "You ever hear about the frog and the scorpion?" Zintelli asked, voice soft like he was telling bedtime to someone he intended to keep up. The kid shook his head, eyes stuck to the burn of the cigarette. Zintelli smiled a fraction. "Doesn't matter if it's in his nature. The scorpion always stings." He slid an envelope across the table with two knuckles. "Deliver that to Bambi. Tell her it's a reminder she owes me." The kid reached. Zintelli's enforcer, a salt and pepper bulldog named Rocco Serra, put one hand on the envelope and one eye on the kid. "And don't look inside," Zintelli said, still gentle. "You won't like what you see." Rocco let go. The kid grabbed the envelope and went, boots skidding on old tile. Zintelli blew smoke toward the ceiling and spoke without looking. "You're sure she's isolated?" Rocco nodded. "Lopez is busy. Winters is a ghost when he's using." A flicker. An edge of a grin. Zintelli liked information more than he liked birthdays. Rocco continued, "We seed a rumor in Clinton Hill. Couple calls to finance about a missing file. She'll feel the walls. She'll run to you." "She won't run," Zintelli said, snuffing the cigarette. "She'll walk. Bambi's proud. Pride makes the leash feel like pearls." Rocco waited. Zintelli's eyes went winter. "Have a car on her route home, not close enough to scare, close enough to remind." Rocco cracked his knuckles. "You got it, boss." Same night, a diner that never closes chrome counters, coffee burnt into the wallpaper, waitresses who could field strip a lie faster than a service pistol. Bambi Palermo sat in a red vinyl booth beneath a clock that had run 5 minutes fast for 20 years. Across from her, Emily Palermo Winters cupped a mug with both hands like warmth had a tax. The window showed a rain-slick street and a city that wasn't done being itself yet. "You look like you didn't sleep," Emily said. Bambi smirked. "You look like you did." "I had to," Emily said, shrugging small. "Caden's on another late-night rabbit hole. He's focused." Bambi's eyes did a slow blink, soft at the edges, dangerous in the middle. "Focused on me?" "Focused on everything," Emily said. It was the way she said everything that said yes. The waitress topped off both cups without asking. Bambi stirred sugar she wouldn't taste. Her phone hummed against the formica. Blocked number. Bambi flipped its screen down and didn't move her hand. "You gonna get that?" Emily asked, careful. "It's nobody," Bambi said, which was always a lie when it mattered. Emily's eyes searched her sister's face the way sisters do when they grew up learning to read the weather there. "You don't have to carry this alone." Bambi grinned like a dare. "Who says I'm carrying anything?" The phone buzzed again. Bambi finally lifted it, thumb hovering, then pressed the side button. Silence returned to its chair. She changed the subject with a pivot she'd practiced since they were girls. "You still keeping that charity afloat in Bed-Stuy?" Bambi asked. Emily smiled, relief and worry woven together. "Barely. We did a coat drive last week. You should have seen the kids. You would have stolen half their mittens." "Only the good ones," Bambi said. She lifted the cup and hid behind the steam for a second. "You tell Winters to get some real sleep. He starts seeing ghosts when he's tired." Emily looked at her. "He's not the only one." They left it there. Outside, the rain turned to a fine mist, the kind that makes the city look like it's thinking about something it won't say out loud.